Chapter 1. Susie and Mary. It seems such a long time since we've talked. I've just been shopping, including a visit to your boutique. I had hoped to see you to chat, though I did need a new bra, so it would have been nice for both of us. Your new vendeuse, though, is a super saleswoman. Almost before I had realized that I had a new bra and panties to match, she even persuaded me to buy 2 pairs. I haven't been fitted for a long time, so she measured me and I had to buy a cup size larger, but the new one is so comfortable. She then showed me some lovely lace bodies, so, foolishly I bought one and a new nightdress as well. It was really a pleasure to shop there and have such an attentive vendeuse. But, she looks as if she was John's sister. She could almost be a twin, but I know that he hasn't one. Oh, Susie, there is a really long story. Come and have lunch and I'll explain. As I put together a salad, opened a bottle of wine and put a baguette to warm in the oven, I wondered what to tell and how. John, my husband for 25 years, has always had a penchant for wearing women's clothes. At first, when he told me, soon after marriage, I was disturbed, uncomfortable and did not know how to handle the situation. However, he was a good husband, became a good father, and so I accepted his cache of clothes and occasional dressing sessions, happily mostly alone. However, about 2 years ago, at the age of 53, he was made redundant. The company was generous in its terms, so financially it was not an immediate catastrophe, and I have my boutique, which he had helped finance. He decided to try to make it alone as a consultant and set up an office at home. It was difficult, but he got sufficient volume of work, interestingly including a long-term contract from his old firm, to occupy him about 3 days a week and to provide a reasonably generous income. However, the loss of daily contact in a big office and, I guess, the realization that he would never ascend to those giddy heights beloved of ambitious men, clearly made him depressed. He would not see our doctor, but I did notice that there were signs that he was dressing in his limited selection of clothes more often. It wasn't difficult to know, as I am, I suppose, a little bit fanatical about ordering drawers and wardrobes so I could see things in changed places. I was out Tuesdays to Saturday as I built up my business, a boutique that sells expensive lingerie, including a line of mastectomy bras and accessories and a limited range of what one might call corsetry. Strangely, there is still a demand for good shapewear, and not only from older ladies. Some of my best clients are well-off young women for whom the sexy exoticism of a good and pretty corset or bustier is worth the expense and the discomfort. I cannot imagine wearing such restrictive clothing anymore. Though a pretty control panty is, I regret to say, sometimes necessary. One day, about a year ago, the weather was vile, the high street almost empty of shoppers, so I decided to close really early. I came in quietly, by habit, and I could hear the radio upstairs. Our bedroom door was open and there was John, in tardy red underwear and black stockings, and improbably high heels, sitting at my dressing table putting on makeup. I was between shock and laughter. "Oh, John, what are you trying to do? Women of our age, in fact of any age, don't dress like that unless they are low-class tarts." I could see tears in his eyes, so changed tack completely, and said, "If you really want to be a woman, dear, I can help you, but we will have to start from scratch." At that moment the doorbell rang, so not having decided what to tell Susie, one of my best and oldest friends, I stopped my reflections and went to let her in. She is a very emotional and ebullient woman, and had clearly come straight from her shopping, and she still had a couple of packages, including that of So Feminine, my shop. "Mary dear, it's so nice to see you again. Thank you so much for this invitation. I just have to find out about your new vendeuse, Jenny," she said her name was. "But first, I must go to the loo. I drank too much coffee this morning and I can't keep my legs crossed any longer." When she came out, lipstick redone, and as usual very smart in a blue suit, white silk blouse, with just the smallest indication of the lace of her bra showing in the V. I poured us both a glass of wine and we sat down. "Well, Tell me more. The resemblance to John must be a pure coincidence, but it gave me shivers when I first saw her. So feminine, but so like him in basic features, but so different. I took a deep breath. Jenny is John. Mary, don't be such a silly, she can't be John, she's a woman, and he's an obvious man and your husband. I said that it was a long story, so, once I have lunch on the table, I'll tell you all. Once we had started eating, I plunged into the story, telling her a little history up to the moment I was remembering when she arrived. Well, what could I do? I knew that stopping him from dressing was impossible. I have done some research on the subject, but if he needed, rather than just wanted, to be a woman, I wasn't having anyone but a lady, so I had to help. I hadn't much time to reflect, so I told him to put on my dressing gown, take off those silly heels and put on something more sensible. We went downstairs and I said what we, and I stressed the we, would have to do. I got out a tape measure and took all the key measurements and said that he would have to lose about 7 kilograms, do regular exercises with me for tummy, waist and thighs, start a laser depilation process for his face, and commence some voice therapy. I also told him to start ensuring that he had as little body hair as possible, using depilatory cream plus one of those rotary things that pull hairs out by the roots. But he is quite slim and in good shape. He was and is, but she needed to be slimmer as both hips and bottom would need padding and, of course, she would need decent breasts, all of which would increase apparent weight. Gosh, said Susie, who had hardly touched her salad, I still can't see though how you made your man into a total lady, so I want the works. I didn't make him into a lady. I helped him become a woman, and that woman, happily, adopted rapidly the habits of a lady. Once we had started together, John was a super pupil. Not that I know anything about feminization, but it was clear enough what was needed. We went through her clothes, discarding all the tat and making a list of what would be required. John was all for going off shopping as soon as possible, but I told him that there would be no shopping until he was at the right size. He was so motivated that the weight loss was quite fast, all 7 kilograms gone in 3 months and, with exercise, his natural waist dropped to 32-inch. He had his first 2 laser sessions, started voice training and followed my exercise regime. In fact, we enrolled at the gym. He was the only man in the class, but it didn't cause any problems for the other girls or for him. You know, his depression started to lift. It was as if once again he had a goal, though I don't think either of us realized at the time what that goal would be. He also became a lot tenderer and even our love-making improved. Ooh, you are a lucky woman. When I think of my ex and his efforts, all geared to his own climax and very little consideration for my needs, a decent lover is certainly to be valued. That, Susie dear, is another story, and not for today. When he was down to the right weight and his beard already considerably lighter, we started on shape, makeup and clothes. Breasts were not a problem. I stock and sell a limited line of mastectomy wear, so I could fit her properly. Hips were a little more difficult. We did some internet research, but everything seemed to be to stress bottom, whereas I wanted width to balance shoulders. In the end, I talked to a specialist corsetier who took a light control girdle and cut some pads to shape to give the right width of hips. He had already found out how to hide his maleness, by pulling everything back between his legs, but I felt that there lacked a little roundness, so suggested that he wore a light incontinence pad that gave her a really nice shape in front, just like a feminine Mons de Venus. How uncomfortable for him. No, I think I must always say she, for Jenny as she was now becoming, said it was really quite comfortable and she can now do a full day without apparent discomfort. You know, it was very surprising, but she wanted to experience all the things we are glad to have finished with. He asked if he could have a period, so for a week, I made her wear wet pads, doubled up for the 3rd and 4th day. I've told her that at our age it is a delight not to have the curse, but I guess that it was and is part of her learning curve as she continues, not regularly, to wear pads for a week when the mood takes her. Horrible things! I always wore Tampax, but even then was never comfortable. That at least is something she can't have experienced. Well, dear, even that. I know that he has tried a tampon in his rear and he uses occasionally a vaginal cream, so at least oh dear, I am confusing gender again, she has some experience of things inside the body. However, to return to the creation of a woman. We had eternal practice sessions as to behavior, walking and sitting, using the loo, etc. The latter was really rather fun. I had her wear all sorts of outfits, straight skirt, with tights, trousers, the whole panoply of possible outfits, and then made her drink lots of water so that she had to go frequently to the loo. I marked her on speed and her appearance when she came out. All this at home in preparation of our first sortie together. You certainly created a total woman. I wouldn't have even dreamed this morning that I was being fitted for a bra by other than a very professional sales lady. She did attend a one-day fitting course, so she certainly knows how to do it properly, and I get nice comments from some of my customers about my assistant and how she is so attentive and seems to know exactly what to offer. But this was much later in the story. Dare I ask? Ask what? Well, when he is she and you are together, what is the, relationship? I laughed and explained that yes, we did things together as two women, including making love, and that she was so gentle and considerate that, yes, she could give me an orgasm. So you are, she is, oh dear, my grammar is deserting me, lesbians. Well, I suppose so, but I would rather that, than she was attracted to men, though I know she is very excited when being given the look by a potentially interested male. Ooh, I don't think I could be attracted by a man who was a woman. Susie, stop there for the moment. Maybe we can talk about that later. I'd like to go back to the creation of Jenny. You know that the boutique used to be closed on Mondays. Well, when I felt that she could go out without causing comment, I decided we should do a semi-public transformation, starting as John and ending as Jenny. I had decided to do the him-to-her transformation in a leisurely manner, including some basic shopping and a first beauty session. So the evening before, I had him ensure that there was no unfeminine body hair. When we started the day, I had him put on his padded girdle, tights and a nice lace bra, into which I put his breast forms. Then male clothes on top, no socks of course. He wasn't comfortable, but with a loose jacket on top no one could see anything. We started off in Kendall's, I know, the head of fashions, and she was expecting us for the basics. It did not take too long to have him, at that stage still, in a smart blouse and well-fitted trousers, showing his now widened and feminine hips. We also bought an attractive, but smart skirt and a 3/4 jacket/anorak with a little bit of fur at the collar. His clothes, shoes accepted, and the skirt were put in the bag and we headed off for shoes. Didn't she have anything left after your clean out? Yes, of course, but I wanted to get her into the style that would suit a woman, a lady, of her age. You know, it was strange, but she, Jenny, looked around 10 years younger than him, John. No mini skirts, trousers as much as skirts, etc. At the shoe store, there was no hiding a man wearing tights, but the sales lady was unflustered and we bought 2 pairs, one almost flat, the other a little more dressy, so that now he, still, was completely dressed in women's clothes, except for jewelry. Then we chose a couple of rings, bracelet, clip-on ear rings and a simple necklace to complete the outfit. Finally to the beauty salon, for the last stage of the transformation. In the cubicle I let him put on the skirt as we waited for Roxanne to do the makeup. Fortunately, she had done trannies before so had no problems with a male client and had all the skills and products. Well, you've met Jenny and she fooled you, so you can see how effective the makeup was. I've got the photos. Do you want to see them? Gosh, yes, of course. I went upstairs to get the photographs, which showed the power of makeup. Fortunately, the laser treatment had killed most of the dark hairs in his beard and considerably lightened the hole, so the concealer and foundation did not need to be too heavy. It was more the way she made his eyes seem bigger, helped, I guess, by the false eyelashes and fine down his nose and chin. Very clever and effective. Susie was astonished. Well, I know that it is still John, but what a change. He is not, you know, changing into a woman? You are mixing sex and gender, Susie. She is a woman, he, fortunately, remains a male. He did try to suggest hormones, but I killed that idea instantly. I could have gotten an extra prescription for Premarin and I am sure that it would have pleased him, and, I suspect, made his breasts grow and become more sensitive, but the dangers are too great and, besides, I wanted to, and want to, keep my male man, though accepting a male woman as part of the package. Then I showed her the final photograph with wig and jewelry as well as the little portrait photo we had done later. Both showed an elegant and smiling woman, apparently totally happy with her look and herself. Wow, was all she could say. So, Susie, that's Jenny. She is a strong presence in our life together, but doesn't completely dominate, though I know when John works at home when I am out, it is certainly Jenny that does the reports and research. Sometimes she will not change before I come in and then we spend an evening together, even going out to see a film or a concert or to dinner together. No one realizes that we are other than two women having an evening out. I must admit that we tend to avoid those places where we could be seen by people we know as we both want to keep things to ourselves, but now the circle has expanded to include you. What a story! But how did he come to work for you in the boutique? That will be another story. I looked at my watch and noted that it was already 4 p.m. and I had to do some shopping, so said, let's have dinner together on Saturday, just the three of us, women only of course. Ooh, that would be lovely, but let me be the hostess, you haven't had a meal with me for ages, and it will give you both time as one of you at least will be in the shop all day. Chapter 2 John and Jenny. I had, as usual on a Monday, opened so feminine at 10:00, though really hadn't expected many customers in the morning. It gave me a chance, however, to put the stock back in order. Saturday had been a rush and I had been alone in the afternoon with many customers to serve, so there were things to tidy up, a couple of new season range catalogs to glance at and some bills to pay. Some clients, especially the younger ones, are so untidy and some of our displays were terribly mixed up. As I sorted them out by size and design, I reflected on the changes to my life over the last couple of years. I couldn't help smiling as I thought about the incredible luck of having a wife like Mary and the chance to be what I am happy being, a woman, in a purely female environment, even though I remain male. At 55, after well over 20 years with my company, I found myself having to sell the division in which I had spent most of my career. Obviously, I had hoped that the acquiring company would offer me a job, but this was not to be so. Redundancy/early retirement was a blow, though to be honest I guessed that I had expected it. The company was generous and once the deal was signed and sealed the acquirer offered me a consulting contract, initially for a year but extendable. Obviously I took it, set up my own business and looked for other work. I ended up with around 3 days per week, on average, of activity. I didn't like the solitude of working alone at home, though I guess it was lucky that I could do so without being under Mary's feet all day as she had her shop. When the girls left home, she needed an activity and so I had helped her put together the business plan for a classy lingerie boutique, with top-of-the-line ranges like Barbara and Marie Jo, some specialty lines, pretty maternity and post-mastectomy as well as a made-to-measure service for night dresses and beachwear, using a company we had got to know in Thailand when on holiday. The business prospered and though she had an assistant she was there most of the time from Tuesday to Saturday. Whilst the financial side was okay, the work side, apart from projects that involved me in the offices of the company, was lonely and I must admit to being depressed. Slowly, my long-standing transvestism surfaced with increasing strength. Mary knew that I liked dressing in women's clothes and whilst far from active, was never negative, provided that it really didn't intrude on our life together. First it was knickers on a regular basis, then bra, skirt and blouse, tights and shoes whilst I worked. I always managed to change back before Mary came home until the fateful day when she came home early and caught me in my undies experimenting with her makeup. What should have been a disaster became my salvation. In later conversations she admitted to knowing how I was moving, psychologically, had been worried but did not know what to do. Her shocked reaction and my tears of mortification triggered something, as very rapidly I found myself taken in charge. She said that she would be prepared to let my femininity be expressed, but only between the two of us and properly. Within days, I had my first laser session to remove my beard. Gosh, it was painful, but as I could see dark hairs going, I realized the benefits. Dieting was not a problem, nor was the exercise regime, though being in a gym in an androgynous outfit made me feel a little uncomfortable at first until I realized that nobody either noticed or cared what I was wearing. Voice therapy and training went more easily, but it was still a long process. Locking myself into the voice was perhaps the main point towards the end, but it worked and I can now, without difficulty, pass vocally as a woman. All these TV/TG stories have it wrong. There is no such thing as a quick feminization. One reads the paragraph that covers the change, quick cream depilation, lingerie, a dress and shoes followed by makeup and wig. Hey presto, a woman. We must have worked for the best part of 6 months, spent a huge amount of money, of which not a great deal was on clothes, and I had to put up with more than enough pain before Mary would allow me out, though I was spending more time at home being Jenny and practicing, amongst other things, competent and non-theatrical makeup. This was aided by a number of lessons from one of the girls who worked in the beauty salon that Mary used occasionally. It wasn't just the body transformation, part easy as such breasts and hips, part more difficult and painful, i.e. regular use of a mechanical epilator on legs and arms for example. She insisted that I started to be a woman. As an example, she gave me toilet training. I now know what it is to have to go to the loo urgently, to wait in line and then manage clothes, bag and shopping in an often none too clean public toilet. This was all with the goal of being no more than an occasional woman, though having been through the process the act of becoming a woman, part or full-time is the same and demands the same dedication. Our first day out together was very strange as she wanted, I suppose, to provide a sort of semi-public rebirth process. On the day she chose, a Monday actually as that was the day the boutique was closed, I dressed in girdle, padded to give me the right shape, hips and tummy area, bra with lovely breast prostheses and tights. Over this I wore a shirt and that is John's trousers and shoes. After breakfast, wearing a loose jacket, we set off for town and the transformation. Fifth stop involved a blouse instead of a shirt and chic feminine trousers, with side zip. We also bought an elegant skirt and a 3/4 length casual coat. I was uncomfortable, though the shopping was as stress-free as possible, but I wasn't too happy with the increasingly non-masculine look, without at the same time being feminine. Next stop involved shoes. Mary insisted that I should have a pair of walking shoes and, at least to start with, a pair of smart shoes with little heels that would go with either skirt or trousers. We finally ended at the beauty salon where, and this was Mary's present, I had the works including full facial and manicure, ending with complete makeup. Lovely! We had my best wig with us and the lady that walked out could not have been happier. I felt like skipping along the pavement. I am, by nature, introvert, but this new person seemed different. We had lunch together, total acceptance from the staff and other customers, thanks largely to Mary's insistence that I learn to be me, not him in drag. In the afternoon, we went to her shop to work together, sorting out stock for the sales, and then home to a lovely evening. I cooked. At that moment, the door opened and I heard before I saw one woman come in. As I looked towards her, ready to be immediately helpful or to let her browse after a greeting, my heart turned over. It was Susie, an old friend of Mary's. My voice nearly went out of register, but I had no time to calm myself and had to hope that the training had worked properly. "Good morning, madam. Can I help you? Is Mrs. Fowler in today?" I thought the shop was closed on Mondays. "No, I work on Mondays. We are experimenting to see whether the extra day is worthwhile or not." "Well then, yes please. I've just bought a new black silk Kenzo top with a deep V-neck and need a new bra to go with it." At that moment she looked at me fully and I could see puzzlement in her eyes. "Do we know one another?" "I could swear that I know you, but from where, I have no idea." "I don't think so, madam, as I haven't worked for Mrs. Fowler for very long." I had to get her thinking about something else, so I moved to the bra selections. "What size?" "Well, I used to buy a 36B, but the last bra I bought was a 38B as it felt more comfortable." "Madam, unfortunately sizing is not universal." "Have you been measured recently?" The reply was negative, so with a selection of black plunge bras I opened the curtain of the changing room and asked her to take off her blouse. It was immediately obvious that what she needed was a 36C, or even a 38D, as her breasts were clearly not cupped properly by the bra. I measured her and told her what I thought. It is surprising how many women wear ill-fitting bras. Menopause brings many body changes, and for many women, the size that they have worn for years becomes a fixed feature of life. I gave her a pretty lace underwired bra, sized, I felt, correctly, and then went to find some more as well as one with a D cup, just in case. When I returned, she was looking at herself in the mirror. She has, I must say, a nice body, and the bra fitted well. "I have never worn this make before. Is it French?" "It is very comfortable, but I would like something a little more frivolous." "You need actually a 36C, your back is unchanged, but your breasts have grown a little. For some models you may even need a D cup, but much will depend on the model." I fetched a similar cut bra, this time decorated with a very pretty pink floral applique which she found perfect. I then persuaded her to buy some matching knickers. She was clearly in a shopping mood, so I showed her a lovely body which she also tried on and bought, and then the new nightdress ranges. As I was wrapping up her purchases, she was clearly back on the track of knowing me, but fortunately 2 women came in at that moment and I could divert her penetrating gaze. The 2 ladies were the sort who makes managing a shop a chore. It was clear that they were not going to buy enough to justify the time that they demanded of me, but I had no other clients, so I kept my charm and was pleased even to have sold one a totally unsuitable string. I can be bitchy, but really, with her hips and tummy, a control girdle would have been more appropriate, and some stockings before I could get them out. I was going to heat some soup and have a sandwich, but a woman in early pregnancy came in saying she wanted some pretty underwear despite her changing shape. I always enjoy making women feel good, so it was a pleasure to show her some comfortable stretch knickers and a marching bra that were feminine but practical for pregnancy. She was a pleased customer. Then a man, looking for a present for his wife. Oh dear, I have learnt so much about men. Mostly they don't have a clue, as they look to please themselves with little idea of what their women want. I am sure that it is the same in bed. Men need to become women to understand what pleases them. He inevitably headed towards the black nightdresses and undies, so I started the questions to make sure that he bought something that would please his wife. I finally persuaded him that a pretty pale blue nightdress and matching peignoir would be more appropriate. I have found that if a man can be helped to buy something that will please his woman, there is a high chance that she will become a client. I managed to eat my sandwich before the first client with an appointment came. As I've said, we stocked post-mastectomy bras and prostheses. We had initiated a by-appointment program where the woman, often with a friend, could shop in privacy. The lady was obviously not long off chemo, as her hair was just regrowing properly and had clearly suffered, psychologically as well as physically. I gave her a cup of tea and sat her down to talk her through prostheses and bras. It wasn't very difficult to find the correctly sized breast replacement, and then we started on bras. We have a couple of lines of pre-pocketed bras and have someone who will sew in pockets in any bra a woman may choose. I had to learn to be able to touch a woman, often in places that would be considered intimate, in such a manner as to be professional and asexual. Not an easy lesson for a male. But, by showing her that she could restore her femininity, by having well-balanced breasts, attractive under a blouse and wear pretty underwear at the same time, I began, I hope, to give her signs that she could be what she was. She purchased the prosthesis and a couple of bras and ordered 2 others to be modified for her. Finally, I had my first tranny customer, also by appointment. It didn't take long, once I started working for Mary, to identify men shopping for their partner or girlfriend and those shopping for themselves. The first were easy, the latter sometimes extremely difficult, as they weren't easily persuaded to be open. Mary had difficulty with those without the confidence to come as, or to admit the reality of, their feminine selves, so we worked out a way by which they could be encouraged to make an appointment for fittings and advice. Some became, by the way, excellent customers, prepared to pay fortunes for properly fitted underwear. Our made-to-measure service was largely underwritten by these clients. My client this afternoon had heard via the grapevine that we gave an excellent personalized service and would be happy to help develop body shape correctly. He was clearly well off and, given his relative youth, probably in financial services. I started by putting him at his ease and explained what I liked to achieve with him, i.e. a body with which she would be comfortable. I gave him a stretchy one-piece, like a dance leotard, and told him to undress and put it on. Then I measured him, chest, waist and hips, as well as leg and torso length. I had soon found out that the best way to keep a potential client such as him happy was to talk, almost non-stop, explaining everything that was being done and why. What is the woman's name, yours? Jackie is the name that I have given to her. Good. Well, Jackie, you know that a woman's waist is normally relatively higher than that of a male and, obviously, hips are wider. It is said that the perfect ratio of waist to hips is 0.7, that is to say, hips 40 inch, so waist will be 28. Actually, the feminine form becomes agreeably correct at 0.8, and few women these days conform to the old rule. Your waist at the moment is a natural 35 inch, so you need to lose at least a dress size, that is 5 kilograms, and start a waist and tummy reduction process through exercise. Your hips are 38.5 inch and we can probably comfortable at 3.5, thus bringing them to 42, probably 41 when you have shed the surplus kilos. With the aid of our special girdle, we can raise your waist and probably give you a comfortable 33 inch. This will give you a waist to hips ratio of almost exactly 0.8. With this lower body shape, you will have no problems even wearing trousers. But I don't want to wear trousers. A skirt is so much more feminine. Jackie, look at women in the street. How many wear skirts these days even in summer? Less than 20%, I guess. I am wearing a skirt today, but that is because I like to keep the feminine feel, but even here in the most feminine of feminine places my boss and I are usually in trousers. No, you will have to learn to wear, to walk and to be comfortable in them and then explore the forms and colors that a woman can permit herself. After that little diversion into reality, I move to the bust. You will need a 38 bra, cup B or C. Most trannies go for the big bust, but I do not advise it. If anything, small is always better than too large, so I am going to try you with a B cup and appropriate prostheses. Jackie eventually left, having ordered 2 padded girdles, both skin neutral in color, a pair of nice breast forms, which he took with him with 2 underwired bras, and an order placed for a pretty bustier and medium control corselet from our made-to-measure line. On leaving, I gave him a couple of our cards and a fact sheet with some useful names, a beautician and shoe shop selling larger sizes for example. When he left, I started to close up the shop. The till takings had easily justified the day. Susie alone had spent well over £200, Jackie a similar amount paid and more to come, and with her I was fairly sure to have gained a new faithful customer. So, despite the scare of seeing Susie, who I was sure had, in fact, not the slightest inkling of my other identity, I was pleased with the day. When I got home, Mary was in the kitchen, so I started to tell her about the day, starting with Susie's arrival. "Jenny, I know all about her visit. She came straight round to tell me about it, and now she knows about Jenny. We are going to have dinner with her on Saturday evening.